Patchwork Heart Ministry and Fiat Ministry Network invite you to discover your mission. A brand new in-depth monthly video series featuring engaging Catholic speakers who will challenge you to live your life abundantly. For only $25 a month, you will receive a personal monthly mission, including 3 full-length inspirational talks that build upon a new theme each month. Sign up for the Discover Your Mission tier at patreon.com/Patchwork Heart Ministry today.
Welcome to the Sowing Hope podcast. This is a show all about implanting hope in our hearts. I'm Bill Snyder, joined by my friend Ann DeSantis. We're glad you're here for our uplifting conversation about faith and how it sustains our hearts through all the seasons of life. Thanks for walking with us. And good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Sowing Hope podcast. I am Bill Snyder. It's wonderful to be with you here on the last few hours of 2020. We're counting them down with you here on the Sowing Hope podcast, and I hope that you are looking forward to a new year in a few hours. I know that we are as well, and we just appreciate all the stuff you have done for us and our ministry over the course of this year. Thank you for participating. Thank you for helping us. And thank you for listening to our programming. And I also want to give you a quick shout out and thank you for participating in our fundraiser last night. Really appreciate everyone who joined us for our live fundraiser. But I don't want to spend too much time talking about ourselves because I have a wonderful guest. And as always, I'm joined by my good friend Ann DeSantis. Ann, how are you today, these last few hours of 2020?
Oh, I'm doing great. You know, I do love New Year's Eve. I always did. So it's great to be here and with excellent guests that we have this evening. So very, very grateful for our wonderful guests.
Yes, I am so excited for this interview today and so excited for the program. So why don't you tell us about them?
Yeah, we have Nate Moran, and he's coming to us from the Whitehall, Pennsylvania area. He is an author, a performer, a mime. He is a veteran. He was formerly a homeless veteran, and he's the author of a book called The Mime Speaks. He has an incredible story, and I'm just so grateful to have him here with us. He's also joined by Bathsheba Monk, and she is the founder and publisher of Blue Heron Bookworks, specializing in the extraordinary stories of ordinary people. She's the author of 7 novels, won a Chicago Tribune Best Book of the Year, and 3 plays. She's an Army veteran, lived most of her life in Europe and Boston, Massachusetts, before returning home to Allentown, Pennsylvania. So you're not too far away from me, Bathsheba.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you both. This is wonderful. So why don't we start out with how the two of you met, because I know that you're working together, and Nate has an incredible story that you also wanted to share, Bathsheba, with others.
Yeah, we met through another mutual friend, and she was working on a book and designer R.C. Moran. So we talked and kicked, and we found out we were veterans. First of all, once you're veteran, you're family for life. And more we kept engaging with each other at different events. And then I went to it. I said, one day I want my story told. She said, maybe I might help you with that. Let me see. And after that, that's off to the races. And it's been going on ever since. And it's been truly a blessing for me. To have her in my life and help me get my dream come true, to help me get this book out. Because I always wanted to get my book out. It was my story told. I wanted to inspire people to never give up. That's my thing. And by any means, to dance, to conversation, now my book and everything I can to inspire people.
Yeah, I absolutely love your story. And you sent me some wonderful YouTube videos because you are a mime. And I would love for you to tell us more about how that came about in your life, because you do such a wonderful job with it and you're fascinating to watch.
Oh, wow. Thank you for the compliment. Yeah, what happened, like I said, I'm a veteran. So every year I get into a competition called the National Veteran Creative Art Festival. I've been doing it since 2009. And 2011, I wanted to do something different. You know, I had entered in, first time I did Louis Armstrong, Hello Dolly, you know what I mean? 'Cause I thought back in the day I grew up watching Louis, so I imitated him so much, so it was part of my, it was part of my inner growth. You know, it was my thing I wanted to do, that wonderful world and all that. But then my music therapist in the VA, she always see me dancing, because I've been dancing since I was a baby. You know, I've been dancing since before I can spell my name, you know what I mean? But I was pushed. She said, you should you should do dance. You're always dancing. I said, well, I don't know, you know, after I just got myself back and get myself together from being homeless. And I was like, I don't know if I still got it. She said, you dance to me all the time. So she pushed me. So I finally competed for first year, 2010, as dance. And I won nationally. Then in 2011, I wanted to do something different. And I wanted to bring the song, Usher, There Go My Baby, to life. And I knew the song like the back of my hand. So I remember the great minds. I always pronounced his name wrong, Marcel Marceau, you know, the great French Mime and Charlie Chaplin and all these guys. And I always admired, especially Charlie, where he rocked with Kane and where he, you know, told stories and had people laughing, and it was fun. So I wanted to do something like that with that song. And I went to Party City, bought some white paint, put on my face, and with time for the taping for the competition, I asked her, I said, I felt different. I really felt different. And when I literally felt my body leave me and step into the song, and it was like a feeling that it was like, I got to do this again, you know? And I got hooked. I'm hooked. That feeling, you know, you chase that feeling. It's like, you don't know your calling until you really step into it. And I think this was, was my calling for through all the years. You know, bringing stuff to life. I was brought to life. So now I like bringing music to life so people can look at it a different way.
Yeah, I just love your story, and even how you and Bathsheba came together. You're both veterans, and she's an author. So so as you developed your talent and as you decided to go into this direction with being a mime, so when you came together, how did this book really decide? How did you decide to really go in that direction? I wondered how you worked together. If you could talk about that, working together on the book.
Oh man, you know, when it comes to Bathsheba, you know, it's like I said, she's like she's my publisher, and I mean my book, but she's like my best friend now. You know, you know, yeah, you know.
Well, I have to interrupt you for a second, Nate. That, you know, this has been a very tough year for a lot of people, you know, including us. And so we were working at the beginning of the year. I think we started maybe. Nate, maybe in January or something, or maybe before that. Yeah. And things were kind of tough here. And Nate's story is so uplifting, and he kept saying, "Never give up, never give up." And honestly, you know, he got me through this year. So maybe as I was, you know, Nate would come over before we had the quarantine. He'd come over and we'd talk, and I'd make notes, and you know, pretty soon it was just we became friends. I would say, Nate, don't you think? And he was encouraging me not to give up. And so it was like a wonderful way to start. And so this year didn't seem so bad.
You know, that's beautiful. You know, and I can just, you know, we can see here on the Zoom call that as we're talking, just the chemistry between the two of you already, you know, and it's so deep and so rich and so wonderful. And you know, I think it's fascinating, Bathsheba, how you have, you know, made it your mission. We were talking a little bit before the call to really develop people's stories and help them, you know, uncover their story so that it can help other people, right? I mean, isn't that what it's all about? And I was saying that's kind of what we do on this podcast, you know, in a audio way, right? In an audio way, we're able to, you know, uncover people's stories. There's something so fascinating about stories, and I want to delve into Nate's story, but I also want to hear, you know, how you kind of grew into this, you know, mission in your life. You know, how you developed this mission in your life to help others share their story, and then we can, of course, jump into Nate's amazing story, you know, and everything else.
Yeah. Well, I did do, after my first two novels were published, I did do a memoir writing conference. And frankly, it was just to make some money. You know, that's what writers do when they're not writing. And all these people came to the conference. It was here at the Steel Stacks in Bethlehem. And they all had these fabulous stories. And somebody, it was a steel worker, and he asked me if I would publish his book. And I said, I don't know how to do that. And so he said, well, you better find out. And so that kind of started me on this road. And since then, I realized that that first of all, that everybody who I end up talking to has a story. And the only way, really, I mean, we're all trying to do what we can in this world to help everybody get along. And in my opinion, I've never met anybody in real life or even in a novel that if I understood their story, that I didn't love them. Even the bad guys. If you know what makes them tick, if you know why they did what they did, then you love them. And I really think that getting the stories out of people who are extraordinary and ordinary all at the same time, they have ordinary lives. Nobody knows who they are, but they're so extraordinary in how they deal with life that it's going to help us all see each other differently, I think, as heroes, because we're all heroes.
Yeah.
Said it so well. Yeah. And I think especially in this year, right? I mean, there's so many real life heroes, and you two are one of them.
Oh, wow. Well,
Yeah.
you all too. Y'all, you know, you.
Thank you.
You know, you sending hope. You know, I told in my book, one of my things, people always ask me, or even I think it's in my book as well. People say what's inspired me. I said what's inspired me is when I see people doing stuff to help somebody else. I don't care if you're rich, famous, whatever. You can be a baby. If you're doing something to inspire people, you know, that inspires me, and I look up to you because that's my thing. I really like seeing people do stuff to help someone, you know, in any kind of way, you know. So I respect y'all too. Y'all doing. You got this podcast and this radio stuff and going on, and you're doing stuff to help people, you know, to lift people up and have people go on. And I take my hat off to you both too as well, you know. And Bathsheba, you know I do. You know, I really do. I take my hat off to you.
Yeah. So, I mean, Nate, I'd love to hear, you know, I mean, obviously we want people to, you know, get a copy of your book, and that's, you know, that's a given. Yeah, but I would love for you just to share with us the parts of your story that, you know, mean the most to you. I mean, I think it's, you know, an incredible journey when you hear things like, you know, homeless veteran, when you hear things like Mime. You know, you you don't you just know that there is a winding, twisting, and beautiful journey that is about to unfold for the listener. So I would just love it if you just share from your heart and share, you know, your story, so that people can get to know you, and also the hope that is within it, because clearly there's plenty of it.
Yeah. Well, 13 years ago, I was a homeless veteran. You know, I traveled all over the world, you know, through the military and also through performing. But 13 years ago, I was a homeless veteran in the streets of New York for 2 years. I was out there for 2 years. I slept in the snow, I slept in the rain and the heat. I went through all the temperatures. I went through the whole thing to the point I even, when I've been in the snow and the rain and stuff, I even had to peel my socks off because they've been on my feet so long, you know, and feet swell and the whole thing. And you know, I seen death out there. You know, I came close to death a lot of times out there in the streets. And then I had good times too. You know, I had people come to me, and I had a guy come to me one time and even give me a pair of shoes that he saw my feet, you know, shoes I had on my feet out of nowhere. You know, I met the famous performer Neo, you know, out there in the streets. And, you know, he didn't laugh at me, he laughed with me, and we joked, and he inspired me. And, you know, so after I went through all that hunger and I walked myself to sleep, I remember days actually walking, and I actually walked myself to sleep, you know. But, you know, and then, you know, an old timer told me, I had two people came to me that really spoke to me, that really helped me. I was panhandling, and I was in Long Island, in Freeport, Long Island. And I was panhandling because I got to drinking, I was drinking I said, let me go buy a Smile. So that's what I would do, to try and keep myself going. So I was in the front of the liquor store panhandling, and a guy came to me and said, I know what you want the money for. I know what you want the money for. He said, but you got to do me a favor. Said this prayer for me. And I said, okay. At that time, I'm just wanting my drink. I'll be honest with you. He said, say this prayer, take this taste from my mouth. I said, okay, take a taste from my mouth. And I put my hand on real quick. He said, no. Say it like you mean it. So I said, okay, take this taste from my mouth. So then he gave me the change. But I said the prayer, and I went and got my drink normally like nothing happened. But then one day I was on 8th Avenue in Manhattan, and I did an inner and outer body look at myself. I looked at me like, what are you doing? What's going on? What is this? And I honestly started saying that prayer. I said that prayer. Even when I was drinking, I was saying that prayer to get that taste. He said, it's a simple prayer. You had nothing complicated. And I kept saying that prayer. I prayed and I prayed, and it worked. He took the taste from my mouth, and I ended up going to the VA, become a veteran. So I went to the VA in Northport, New York, and I went through Salvation Army, and I did a program. I stayed there. They let me stay there for 30 days, and I went to another program and got myself together. I no longer had that taste no more. That prayer, that prayer, it sticks with me, and I'll never forget it for a day of my life, And then another time, another person said, when they read your eulogy, what they going to say? Are they going to say a good guy, bad guy in the back? Somebody might say you owe money, or are you going to be a guy that made a difference or trying to make a difference? And he said, which one do you want to be? And I always say, I want to be one of them guys that's trying to make a difference. I always want to be a guy, even if I could just save one life or save one person and see some of the pain that I went through, going through them streets, and I at least did a difference, so that's why I go out now. And, when I first started performing again, because I tell you, I've been dancing since I was a baby, man. I've danced in Germany. I've been in Germany. I've performed in Germany. I did Reno. I'm performing all over, and so, my music therapist, and her name Tracy Enright, she asked me, she saw me start performing outside, because I was only doing shows for veterans at one time, only for the veterans. And I started doing stuff on the outside. She said, what do you want out of this? She said, you getting, I said, I want to tell my story. I said, I want to be in the world. I want to use my art to tell my story. You ask me, sometimes when I get into some of the stuff, I think, I'm kind of soft, so I hope y'all excuse me for a minute. But, I wanted to tell my story. So, and that's what I did. I started going out. People started putting me in shows. I started doing fashion shows. I did weddings. I did the Hamptons. I did funerals. And every time when I go out, I even work with the youth out here in Pennsylvania. I work with the youth, I got a 5-year contract through CASA, Guadalupe, then La Vega she got a nonprofit organization, the Relic, and we work with the youth and teach the youth. The virus has slowed us down, because the virus, but, I miss working with the kids, because, we can learn from each other, or it doesn't matter how old you are, or how from young to the old, we can all learn from each other. So I just want my story. I just want to go out and push people, because, especially like right now with this virus and all the stuff that's going on in the world, we all got to find a way to lift each other up, man. To me, we got to, join together and grab as much as we can, every bone of our body, every feeling that we have, and inspire each other, because, you can't do this alone. I've been in the streets alone. I was out there. Excuse me, bro.
Yeah.
I was in the streets for like I was alone.
It's so beautiful. It's so your witness is so beautiful, Nate. I just and
To me as well.
and thank you for the courage to share it and share it in multiple ways, right? I mean, you share it as a mime, you share it during shows, you share it in a book, you're sharing it now with us, and yeah, I mean, we can see the emotion and we know it's real, and we know that a simple prayer, something as simple as, Lord, take this taste out of my mouth. That's a beautiful prayer. That's a beautiful prayer. And look where that prayer, has led you to today. Look where God has put
Yes.
you today. Just I'm so inspired by listening to you, and I think an awful lot of people ought to be as well, because when you hear that, nothing is impossible for God. We we hear that line during the Christmas readings. Nothing is impossible for Him. And one of the coolest things about that is that each and every person listening right now knows that no matter where they are in their journey, where they are in their faith journey, whatever they might be, struggling with alcohol, some other addiction that they're battling, make the prayer simple. Make the prayer simple and just repeat it. It doesn't mean that it's gonna, overnight, that taste is just gonna disappear. It might take time and hard work and persistence, like it did with you, Nate. But the reality is that God is gonna step in and lead you to a better place. All you have to do is be consistent and pray. And what a great thing for this new year as we begin to open up 2020 in a few hours, or 2021 in a few hours. What a great message for listeners. So thank you so much for sharing that heartfelt witness to our audience, because it certainly is powerful.
Yeah, I'll echo that. It is powerful. And I thank you so much for sharing. You had sent me those videos, the YouTube videos, and I think they're just incredible. And I would love to ask people to go to your YouTube channel. So tell us more about your YouTube channel, because you have some great videos there. One is called Nate the Mime, and it's Pray. It's entitled Pray. That's one of them.
Yeah, that one is, be honest with you, was crazy. That song, I bought the CD, Kirk Franklin CD, to do that song. So you want to be happy, that song. So I was going to do that song. And as I went through, I heard that song, Pray For Me. And I know somebody prayed for me. And so when I did that mime, I wanted to show how prayer works. And I wanted to use my story as with it. So that's why when we watched it, I went from the raggedy guy and I ended up with the tails on, because I want to show how prayer worked. But my YouTube, really my YouTube channel is real school one, with real school spaced in one. And if you even Google Nate the Mime, most of my videos will pop up. I have other videos with other people's YouTubes that people have filmed me and put me on their YouTube and different events, because I do mime off of gospel, and I do mime off of all music. But I'm making sure that I have respect for the world and for women. My grandmother raised me, and I got much love and respect for my women. And my mom brought me in the world, so I'm not going to perform. I'm not going to put my signature on anything disrespecting women. And I love the world, so I don't want to disrespect the world. So what happened, I was doing an event in Harlem. It was like Stop the Violence event, and Dougie Fresh team and everybody was there. And they were telling me, because I was going to stick strictly with gospel doing mime. And they said, no, don't limit yourself. Just watch what you bring your mime to. And, you can get a message through the world through all music, because some people don't listen just to gospel. So that's why I now do mime to all music. After that day of that event, it stuck with me. So now, people in the Dougie Fresh team and Queen, his later name is Queen. I always mess with last name, so I just say Queen. And they all talk to me, and so now I do mime to all music, but I haven't did country western, you know what I'm saying? But I just wanted to get that message through any way of mime, in any way I can to, and I try to push to never give up some kind of way in there, even though, you know what I mean? It's on the tags on my car, it's on everything, that's my thing. And I'll take a minute to smile, because, when that 1 minute you smile what you might need to get you through that day or through that minute, so I always say, take a minute to smile too as well.
Yeah, it's having the two of you on this show is so important. I think especially God brought it so that we would have it on New Year's Eve of all days, right?
Yeah.
As we're finishing 2020 and going into a new year. And I was so blessed by a friend of mine. We kind of went through a little chain of friends till we found each other, because I'm a friend of Bob Charger, who was also on this show. He's been a guest, and he and I have worked together. He's a broadcaster, a legendary Philadelphia area broadcaster who's now retired. And he had led me to a few different friends, and then she had recommended Nate. And then Nate had introduced me to Bathsheba. So it's incredible how God works to bring people together. And I'm so grateful to everyone who's brought us together.
Yeah, I'm thankful too. I'm grateful. You know, he opened some doors up. You know, I tell people you don't know what's behind that door unless you go in. You know, but the main thing is going through that door. You know, once that door open up, don't sit back and look at it, because you don't know what's behind that door. You know, so it's, you know, you have to go through that door to find out. You got to take that step through that door. You know, once that door open up, just go in and see what happens. You don't know, but your blessing might be behind that door. But if you don't go through it, you don't know where your blessing is.
Yeah.
You know, so. You know, it was a blessing that we, like I said, through your friends and everybody connected to make this happen. And I told Bathsheba, I said, Bathsheba, this and now we all together. That's how things work. That's how it works. And now we will be friends for life. You know,
That's right.
You know,
I believe that, Nate. I know that Bill does too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you so much. Bathsheba, we'd love to know more about your journey if you'd like to share. I know that you're such an accomplished publisher, author, done so much. Please share with us anything on your journey, on how you've met so many awesome people, and just maybe a little more about you and Nate.
Well, I told you, like we were talking a little bit before the show, you know, I did start out as a novelist, and actually that was kind of a leap of faith too, because I was working in an insurance company, and I got my MFA, and I said I want to write, and everybody said, well, there's no way you can get published, because at this point you're too old, you're not like 20, and nobody publishes short stories. And so I went into Barnes and Noble at lunch, and I looked around, and I said, well, somebody's getting published. so I took the leap, and then it worked. And you know, and I was lucky or blessed enough to meet the right people who put me in touch with the right people. And so I got on that journey. And so after I was always interested though in characters and people. I never was a writer who just wrote about like my own feelings or what I was thinking, because I never found that interesting, really. I always found what was interesting was the way people interact and how they meet and how they either help each other or don't. Yeah. And sometimes why they don't help each other is interesting too. And so when I started doing these memoirs, it was just a natural transition for me, because I was already interested in people and what makes people like Nate, when he finds himself down, say, I don't belong here, and other people not say that. And so those are the type of writers and authors and people that I've been seeking out in my publishing business, is stories that ordinarily wouldn't be told, and handing the microphone to those people. You know, tell us your story, tell us what's going on, you know, because the only stories we really hear in our culture are famous people, you know, people who maybe when they, you know, if they fall, they fall into a pile of cash, or they can make a phone call and get their mess ups fixed. And I'm interested in people who do it themselves, who find it somewhere to make it happen, to create a life that they want, like Nate did. Nate is like prime, you know, and the one thing I found about people like Nate is when I met Nate, I think he told you, we were doing a photo shoot actually for another one of our authors who has a vintage clothing store, and Rose Ellen Moore, and he was there, Nate was there, and we found out, of course, we were veterans, as was a photographer, so we immediately bonded. But But the thing was, he was kind of insistent on wanting to tell his story. And that's one of the things that I do look for in people is, I found out that I don't encourage anybody to tell their story, but if they're insistent and they want to, and Nate certainly was, that it's worth telling. That's all.
Yeah, his perseverance, and that's a characteristic that I just love. I mean, you have the perseverance, and I think of movies like Rocky, right, where he doesn't give up, and he's like that. Honest to God, I mean, he's has such persistence, and he knows that God's going to get him through, and I think that is an amazing characteristic to have. And you're giving so much hope. Yeah. You're giving so much hope to people. You're giving hope to me right now at this exact moment on New Year's Eve. Yeah. And I'm so grateful because we're going into this year and everybody has hopes that this coming year is going to be better, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, I do Uber, and I had a guy. I picked a guy up last night. And I was taking him to work, young guy, and I said, "You ready, man? Are you ready?" Cause I mess with, I like people, so I come at him. I want to see where you're at. Let's talk. So I said, "You ready for 2021?" And he said, yeah, it's gonna be a good year." I said, "It's gonna be a good year, right?" He said, "Yeah, I said, "You gotta make it. You gotta make that part. Say you gotta lock it in." He said, "Yes, right." By the time he got to his job, he said, "Yeah, it's gonna be a good year. I'm gonna work now." By the time I got through with him,
that's Nate.
Yeah, that's one thing we have in common, Nate. That's one thing we have in common. I'm also an Uber driver, and
okay.
And I love it because the grace of God is just so present on a lot of rides, right? Like you can, and here's the amazing thing, like I do Uber. Uber doesn't do me. You know what I mean? I think that's a big thing. Uber doesn't do me. I'm a radio host, evangelist, whatever you want to call it. And I'm able to inspire other people, and the Holy Spirit puts those people in my car that need to hear that message of hope, that need to hear that message of faith, and it's just great. It's just great. Not every trip, but God knows when, somebody just through a casual conversation like, you had last night with somebody, like, this is going to be a good year. This is going to uplift you. This is going to help you. Like, you just know when God's prompting you to share your story with somebody. And Uber is a way, rideshare is a way that God uses us in a temporary way, for a temporary fixed amount of time for a short ride from point A to point B. The other thing I always say is I'm actually going nowhere. I drive all day long, an Uber, and I'm going nowhere. You are going somewhere. I'm going nowhere. So I think that's another powerful lesson, and it's just great to know. It's great to have another person that's out there, uplifting people as they're doing rideshare, because I think God places us in those situations for that purpose, and so God bless you for doing that. And it's fun. We'll have to spend some time sharing Uber stories off the air.
Oh yeah. Let me tell you one of them. Just one. There was a lady got in my car one day, and I think some of this is in my book. But she got in my car, and I picked her up from work, and I felt something when I saw her. I said, "How you doing?" I said, she was tired. So I said, "Oh, you going home? Put your feet up. You off. You get your me time in." She said, "Not really. It never ends." So I felt something. So I said, "It's gonna be all right." And then she said, "Nah." And then she told me that might be her last day staying where she's staying at, so she got to find a place to live and she hadn't had the funds and she was stuck and blah blah blah. So then she said, I said, "Well, God, we're gonna make things work. Don't worry, you never give up." Blah, 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 blah. She said, "I'm mad at God right now." I said, "What?" I said, hold up now. So then I told her, I said, "Know what? I'm gonna believe for you then. Since you don't have it, I'm gonna believe that it's gonna be all right for you." Like that. So I kept telling her. And when I dropped her off, she still had that feeling, but I told her, "I got you." The next day she called me. She said, "Guess what?" I said, "What?" She said, "Somebody found some money for me, help me get a place." She said, "Now I just got to find a place." I said, "Didn't I tell you?" You know what I mean? It was like immediately the next day she called me and told me that somebody found somebody for her to help her get a place. And, you know, and that was, I said, did I tell you? He didn't give up on you? You know, so it was touching that she reached out to me the next day, and it showed how fast God can work, because that it was like late night, I dropped me home like 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever, somewhere in that area. And now the next day, immediately in the morning, you called me and tell me that money came off of nowhere. So that showed you right there that God can work in many ways, you know?
No, it's just beautiful. I love hearing these stories, Nate, because Bill tells me similar ones, that the people that he meets when he's out there driving. So it's a small world that the two of you have that in common. And I'm sure that God's placing these people in your life, isn't he? He's placing these people at that moment.
Yeah, definitely, you know. And I'm like I said, I don't care if you're rich or you're not rich or you're in the streets or wherever, you know, I love people, you know. I like people. I like people. Sometimes I think I love people more than I love themselves. You know, I try to give them all I can. You know, I give you, because that's what with the world is us. You know, it's us.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm so glad that Bathsheba, you shared some of your story too. And you're right. There's something very special about Nate. And when he wanted to tell you that story and he persisted, you know, I think that was God at work, really. It was God at work to bring that story to life for all of us. I mean, so I'm very, very grateful for that. Now, getting back to your being a mime, because I really love those videos that you sent me. I love to watch you do this live. I'd love to see you in action. What is it like for you, Nate, when you're there in front of all these people and you are in action? Tell us what that's like for you.
Well, first, I don't care if I'm performing for one person or I had, you know, a full room of people. I'm always nervous. You know, I pace the floor like crazy before I go in. But then I always, before I walk onto, before I go into my mind where I perform, I always say, okay, me and you, Lord, you know, and I always look at him and say, okay, it's me and you, let's go. You know, I'll be nervous though, I ain't gonna front. People, I just did a fashion show Sunday in New Jersey City, New Jersey, for a big designer. And every time I walk out, he's like, okay. He said, what you doing? Why you pacing? What's going on? I said, I'm nervous. You nervous? You do this all the time. You know, people say, I said, no, you know, it's just that I still got it. But then once I'm in that moment, once I'm into that mime, I'm that mime. You know, I'm that song. I'm them words, and I'm there. And then honestly, at the end of the song, then I come to. You know, it's like I'm not here for a moment. You know, I'm totally into that song that I'm doing. You know, I'm every word, every tweeter, every sound is. I'm trying to give something to everything to make sure that I'm interpreting the song correctly, and someone, like, if somebody can't hear, they can at least see it. You know, I did a performance out here in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and it was anti-bullying event. And the lady did spoken word. Linda Vega did spoken word. I mimed it, and we had a lady who was sign language, and all three was on the stage at the same time telling the same story with a few different arts. And was the first time I ever did it. It was powerful because we all telling kids to leave that bullying alone. You know, don't think about the bullying, and it was pretty powerful. So that's when I'm into that mime zone. I'm there. I'm not here. I'm totally into that song when I'm out there. You know, and it's a good feeling. Every time I do, I get hooked more and more. You know, I did tap, I did jazz. You know, I did African dance. I studied all over. I've been dancing, like I said, I've danced as a baby. So, but this mime got into me, and it's like I'm hooked. You know, I didn't know. I did it as a goof, just to do something different. And now I got a book, Mind Speak. Now I got, you know, I didn't know this mind was gonna. See, like I say, we don't know our calling, but when we step in it, once he reveals it, he probably already had me performing. You know, had this ready for me. You know, because God, we already know. So he had this for me, but that's why I was dancing. And he gave me all the different trainings. So okay, now when you become a mime, you can use all that in there, you know. So yeah, when I'm in that zone, I'm in there. I'm in that moment.
Well, think about this. This just popped into my head. When you were in New York City and you were a homeless veteran, who would have guessed? Only God, right? That you'd be here where you are right now, so successful and so humble also about the work that you've done. You know, God, you were brought to a low place at certain points in your life, but God lifted you up, didn't he? He's lifted you up, and it's just incredible. And I also want to thank Bathsheba that she was able to help you with the book and the great work that you're doing, helping for him to be able to tell that story to the whole world. And so I want to encourage people who are listening to buy the book and learn more about Nate. Tell us how they can get a hold of the book. I know it's called The Mime Speaks.
Yeah, it's The Mime Speak. It's on Amazon. So when they go to Amazon, they can just Google, they put in Amazon and put in The Mime, THEMIME Speaks, SPEK. Oh, look at me. Look, I'm getting old. SP. Don't tell nobody.
Look out, Nate.
Don't tell nobody. Don't you tell nobody I'll start messing up on the speech now. Don't tell them.
The best podcasts are just like this, where we can just be ourselves and also have fun telling the story, right?
Exactly.
I mean, and be engaging and personal. So
exactly.
I thank you so much.
I'd love to know what that fascinating process is like. The two of you, meeting and working together, on this book. I mean, just to tell us a little bit about, maybe Bathsheba, how that has been, over the past year. You said it was an uplifting process and kept you going through this, pandemic, but just share with us a little bit about that process of writing and give us a little bit of the behind the scenes view of it.
Yeah, well, usually, and it was like this with Nate. We start out with the meeting where we get to know each other, and everybody who has a story, everybody who says to me, I have a book. There's always one scene that comes to their mind. So, Anne, if you were to say, I have a book, I know that in your mind you're thinking, this is the scene that changed my life or something. And so that's what I try to get to, is what is that moment? And so it's really we just talk, and then finally, and Nate wasn't really that forthcoming, frankly, about what that moment was, although I knew it was there, until we had, because of the pandemic, Nate got a recorder, and he started talking into the tape recorder, and then he would give it to me. He would drop it off at night, right in the dead of night on his Uber runs. I'd get a tape in the morning. And I would listen to it, and I think sometimes that process works better, because you're talking to yourself, really. You're talking into a recorder, and I don't know if you would agree with this, Nate, but I think that's when the real story started to come out, was when Nate was in the car talking into his tape player about his life, and that's when we started to get to the nitty gritty of what made Nate get up and say, this isn't me on the ground. That's when we got to that.
Well, I'll admit I don't have the book yet, because I just met you pretty recently, but I will be reading the book, and I cannot wait. So yeah, I can't wait. And I would love to let my friends know about it too. As I know Bill's probably excited about it.
Yeah.
And God, God is a wonderful God that brings people together. And I'll just tell you both a quick story, is that the one reason that Bill and I came together, we started this podcast at the beginning of the year, back in March, was, or maybe I think it was before that, Bill, you probably have a better memory than me with that date.
Yes, somewhere around there, February, March, yeah.
Yeah, but because of the pandemic, and when we were introduced to each other, I came to Bill with some background that I had with interviewing and TV, that I would love to do something at home. And and there Sowing Hope was born back at the beginning of the pandemic.
Oh.
And we also discovered, you see the little heart. Now we can see each other on Zoom. Bill has a little heart next to his picture there. It's Patchwork Heart Ministry. And we found that we had something in common. And a part of our stories had to do with health, because both of us had dealt with serious heart issues that, yes. And so that was part of both of our stories, from my past and also from his past. And that's what brought two people together to do Sowing Hope with a heart for Patchwork Heart. Of course, Patchwork Heart was born before Sowing Hope, but Bill, tell us more.
Yeah, I mean, this is an incredible blessing this entire year, in a very strange way. I was telling my dad that a few months ago, actually. I was saying, you would never imagine a pandemic would enable you to grow ministerially, and I think that we are incredibly blessed at Patchwork Heart Ministry, at Fiat Ministry Network, at the St. Raymond Donatus Foundation for the growth that God has given us in this year. I mean, the collaboration between all of us has just been incredible, and the people like yourselves, it's amazing to meet wonderful people that we just get to know, and we get to see a window in their lives, and we get to share a virtual cup of coffee with every week. And I just really I'm just so blessed. I mean, to be able to do stuff like this, and that God has called me to do stuff like this. I mean, the Patchwork Heart Ministry was born all the way back in 2012. I was sitting at a youth conference with a bunch of students and leading them as a youth minister. And I just felt this constant tug from the Holy Spirit. I want you to start a ministry. And I politely replied to him that I thought he was crazy. I'm sorry, you're nuts. I'm not cut out for this. I'm not doing this. And lo and behold, he kept it up. He wouldn't stop. So finally I went back to God and I said, I'll tell you what, you give me a name, I start the ministry. And on the car ride home from this, I'm like, yes, I got out of it. I don't have to do it. The day ended, I'm done, ha ha ha. Well, on the car ride home, the Holy Spirit hits me with this name, Patchwork Heart Ministry, and it was personal. Because of me surviving 3 open heart surgeries. At the time I had only survived 2, but of having open heart surgeries and a stroke, and so it just was that moment when I was like, okay, I know you're calling me to this, and so I'll go out and get the website the following day, and then it kind of meandered. It just meandered for 8 years, really. I had, published a small memoir. I had written some, devotionals, but I hadn't really done very much with it. And what ended up happening was I parted ways with a job on December 3rd of 2018, and God was saying to me clearly, you need to enter full time into this ministry. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to have to drive Uber to make money because in ministry work, you don't make a ton of money. So okay, I'm going to enter into this, and I'm going to do this because this is what God is calling me to. But much like you, Nate, it's like God's calling you to do this. God's placed this purpose on your heart to do this miming, to write this book, to do these things. When God places that and he says, I want you to do this, and I'm going to create the means for you to do that. A week later, it was, Bill's going to start a nonprofit with this ministry. So I started the nonprofit, and then, okay, for a year, I was getting married and all these other things, and it worked out that, you just kind of holding sway, and boom, in 2020, here you are. In ministry full time, doing amazing programs and meeting incredible people, none of which we've met really, in person. I've met Anne for 10 minutes in person, or like 20 minutes in person, had a cup of coffee with her at the beach. But I mean, really, we're in the middle of a pandemic. And so, most of the people I work with, I'm doing it virtually. And so this is such a blessing and a huge thing to meet you guys, because I know that the work God has for us is going to continue. I know Bathsheba and Nate, we're going to have more conversations, whether they're on the air and off the air. I know we're going to have them because, the Holy Spirit has put us together to do something great and to have a purpose. So, yeah, am I blessed for this ministry? Yeah, I am. I hate talking about myself. It's much more. I love talking about my guests much more than talking about myself. So thank you for letting me have the time. But yeah, I'm so blessed to be able to talk with you guys and share, and I can't wait for more, and I can't wait for 2021 because I know there's going to be great blessings coming up.
Yeah, Bill, thanks for sharing, and thank you, Bathsheba and Nate, for giving Bill that opportunity, because he really is doing incredible work, and he's a very, very good person with a good heart, right? Patchwork heart. and I'm blessed by his friendship, really. And my own story, which brought us together. Now, mine was a long, long time ago, but I almost died of congestive heart failure after I had my second child. Oh. And then when I had shared with Bill, when we had shared health, that issue with hearts was something that brought us together. We realized how important it is to live in the present moment and to do God's will. And so that was part of what brought us together, was the hearts and sowing hope right into broken hearts. And that's what Nate is doing. And that's what Bathsheba, what you're doing with these beautiful stories that you're letting the whole world know about, such as Nate. So we're so grateful for both of you. We hope you guys can come back again to Sowing Hope. And it's just been wonderful. I want to wish you both to a Happy New Year. Did you have any closing thoughts as we're almost finished the program?
I just want the world to know to never give up, and that's what I believe. That's my thing. Don't let the world, don't let nothing, don't let nobody, nothing stop you from being you and going for what you want. And always keep something that you enjoy doing. Even just reading or listening to music, or just looking at the sunshine, or looking at the water, whatever it is that you enjoy doing, keep that part of your life. That's your trump card. That's your card that will get you through, when you say, okay, I had a bad day, or I think I had a bad day, and let me go and run and watch some water. Let me look at my fish tank. Let me go do my dance. Let me go do some painting. Let me do some, keep whatever you enjoy doing a part of your life, and so you can get through that day or that moment, and make sure you get a smile in. That's my thing.
Awesome. So beautiful.
Stuff. So beautiful. Thank you guys so much for being here. And yes, we definitely have to have you get both back, because I think there's so much story to unpack. And we thank you for helping us finish off the year. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Happy New Year. And thank you for having us.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
God bless.
God bless.
All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Sowing Hope and being a part of our ministry of sowing hope into broken hearts, from all of us at the St. Raymond Donatus Foundation, Fiat Ministry Network, and Patchwork Heart Ministry. Thank you so much for listening. God bless your 2020 and your 2021. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Sowing Hope on Patchwork Heart Radio. For more information about this podcast and our ministries, visit our websites, patchworkheart.org and andesantis.com. You can also follow and interact with us on Twitter at PWH Ministry or Andy Santis 2.
Patchwork Heart Ministry and Fiat Ministry Network invite you to discover your mission. A brand new in-depth monthly video series featuring engaging Catholic speakers who will challenge you to live your life abundantly. For only $25 a month, you will receive a personal monthly mission, including 3 full-length inspirational talks that build upon a new theme each month. Sign up for the Discover Your Mission tier at patreon.com/patchworkheartministry today.